My guest has a very successful YouTube podcast called Jeff Knows Inc. He's a best-selling author, and he's a cancer survivor who's going to be sharing his inspirational story with us.
They marked on me with a Sharpie marker where I was going to get a colonoscopy bag. So I was going to get a bag the rest of my life. I woke up where I didn't need a bag. The surgery dropped to 3 hours, and the tumor I had shrunk was over 50%. And it shows how taking care of yourself and everything I did to my body. It's been 2 years. I haven't had a processed food in my body. I haven't had a drop of sugar in my body. I've never missed my 22 supplements every day. I sauna every day. I fast 16 to 18 hours every single day. Work out 5 days a week. Everything is so routine in my life right now where I'm at 47 in the best shape of my life. I actually felt like I learned even more when I got diagnosed with cancer is focus on the controllables. We focus on the outcome. We focus on the future. We don't focus on what's in front of us.
Welcome to the Lee Labrada Show. Brought to you by Lean Body, the #1 protein shake in gyms across America.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Lee Labrada Show, the podcast that helps you to improve your physical, mental, and spiritual strength. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below now so that you won't miss any future episodes of my show, and look for us also on Spotify. My guest today is an expert on creating work-life balance and teaches men how to balance fatherhood with entrepreneurship. We'll be talking about happiness, success, and finding your purpose. My guest has a very successful YouTube podcast called Jeff Knows Inc. He's a best-selling author, and he's a cancer survivor who's going to be sharing his inspirational story with us. Jeff Lopes, welcome to the show.
How are you, Lee? I'm honored to be here. It's been almost 2 years, a year on my podcast. So it's incredible how time flies. So I'm honored to be here, and I'm honored to share my story and my experience with others. So let's get going. I'm really happy to be here, buddy.
That's great, Jeff. I'm so glad that you're here. So let's start with your childhood. You've often talked about growing up in a loving family environment. How did your parents influence you?
We had the best of both worlds, right? I mean, I had a father that instilled work ethic from a very young age, where I would see my dad only 2 times a month. 2 weeks every month, because he would work night shift and day shift. So 2 weeks every single month, we wouldn't see each other. And what he would always do, and I always tell the story, is he worked for Ford Motors, and what he would do is he would block all his vacation into one slot. And what he realized from a very young age was he wouldn't be able to give us tons of things, but he would create tons of memories. So every single summer, we would pack our bags from Toronto, Canada, jump in the car, and drive over to Cape Cod and spend 4 to 5 weeks every summer there. And we did that for about 12, 13 years growing up. And those memories are something I instilled with. And it's something that'll never, ever leave me. And as soon as I had kids, that was the first spot I wanted to take them as a memory to myself. So it's so important as a dad to realize it's not the gifts. The kids are not going to care about those toys. It's those moments you build with them. That I can sit back, that my dad's no longer with us now. We lost him a little over 3 years ago. And I can sit back and think of all those times in Cape Cod playing on the beach. Those are the things that are going to be with you the rest of your life. So I think my dad always understood that building memories was everything to him. And then I had the opposite. I had my mom, where she was the caregiver. She was the disciplinary. She was the one that nourished me with so much love. So I had the incredible love. And then I had the dad that taught me all the work ethic, which I thought was so important growing up. So I had an incredible childhood growing up.
Those are great examples. And, so often we lose sight of the fact that the only thing that we're going to take with us when we pass from this life is our memories and the love that we made with our family and with our friends. Jeff, how do you define happiness and success? I know that you've called success what you're doing when no one else is looking.
Yeah, I mean, that is success. So when you could focus on living every single day to the fullest and understanding that every moment you have that moment to correct an issue, correct the moment. And you also want to have that mindset of living with no regrets, because you always hear that everyone's biggest thing when they're on their deathbed is regrets. So I try to live every moment where I'm not living with regrets. When I have something to do, I'll do it. When I have an opportunity to spend with my children, I'm going to spend the time with my children. So living with no regrets and understanding that It's the special moments that you build when no one's around, when no one's paying attention. I think we get so caught up in social media nowadays where everything has to be filmed, everything has to be a photo of everything.
Well, you know it.
And you forget about sometimes that the most special moments are just the ones when it's just you and your family, or just even you by yourself sometimes. Taking that time, that little, I call it the mini vacation. I mean, I try to do every single day is try to take a mini vacation, whether it's 30 minutes or 20 minutes for myself, and build these little memories for myself that I'm going to remember later on, and we're going to continue to do with my children, right?
You know, one of the things that I do is I always take pictures. Every single day I take pictures. You know, at the end of a month, I'll look back, and you know how people say time flies, but when you look at those pictures, you realize just how you're spending your time. You realize the things that are truly important for you. And like you, I share a passion for having time with my family, making time with the family, because I really think that is what is most important to me. So let me ask you this. How does an entrepreneur who is also a father find their true purpose, their balance?
I think balance is key because I'm all about schedule, right? So everything I do is set on an actual schedule. When I'm talking about schedule, I physically write everything out every morning. And a lot of entrepreneurs still like that, but I physically like writing out my daily schedule. But I also, believe it or not, I actually pre-plan the time with my children. I pre-plan everything in my schedule. So I make sure that I have slots set, and I'm saying, okay, from 4 to 6, I'm with Tiago, I'm doing baseball, or I'm at the gym with him, and I set everything in a schedule where I know that my time is slotted for my children. And I also have that mindset too with my family is work will come and go. Money comes and goes. So if it's a situation where I have to make a business deal or I have to spend time with my kids, I mean, there's no question where I'm going to be going as towards the actual family time. So understanding the priority and setting that priority, and then setting into your schedule that you know that this time is slotted for your family. It sounds kind of crazy when you think about it, but it's important because as entrepreneurs, you're a perfect example. You understand life gets in your way. Business deals happen. Things happen. So if you don't realize that, okay, that I'm working from this time to this time, and at 12:30, 1 o'clock, I'm done work and I'm out of here, understanding that is very important, where you have a slot and say, okay, 12:30, you know what, whatever is not done, I'll focus on this tomorrow. And understanding that the time that we do spend with the children is all about the memories they're going to be carrying with them the rest of their life, right?
Jeff, that is so spot on. I do the same thing. You know, I actually create a schedule for the day, and I know that I have a certain amount of time to finish the things that I have set out to do. And then at a certain time from that point on, it's going to be family time. And I think that's really super important. Now, you know that each day is a little bit different. I've heard you mention that you have what you call red light days. You have what you call green light days, and some are yellow light days. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, everything's going to change day by day, right? So understanding that there's some days, and I always say that some days are just what we call green light days, where everything is going smooth and everything you plan is going to happen and you're going to have a great day. And then there's days where things start happening. And those are the moments where I think people will react to things. And I think those are the moments where you need to stop, take a deep breath, analyze what is happening, and then reassess it. Don't overreact to moments. I think people just react, especially like I said, nowadays with social media, with so much noise happening around them at all times. People tend to overreact to things. So I think it's very important that we actually sometimes just stop, take a deep breath, analyze it. And I think, and this is something I actually felt like I learned even more when I got diagnosed with cancer, is focus on the controllables. I think a lot of times we focus on the outcome. We focus on the future. We don't focus on what's in front of us. And we don't take the time to look down, even stare at our feet and realize what's around us, what's happening around us at the moment. So I think really, really focusing on what we can control, the controllables, is so important. So I think that's another aspect of a lot of entrepreneurs is understanding and teaching them to actually take a step back and focus on what's in front of them and what they can control, and stopping, taking a breath. Don't overreact to things. Don't over anticipate things.
A lot of times it's about looking at what's in front of you and assessing it, and then figuring out what the best course of action is. And sometimes you have to walk away from it. sometimes you have to, sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and take a little time to assess what to do. But I totally agree with you in terms of not reacting, because a lot of times when we react, what we're doing is we're tapping into that part of our brain that is instinctual survival, and sometimes that causes us to say things and do things that we regret later. So let me ask you how that ties into the concept of reframing. You know, it's a mental training technique that both of us use. Can we talk a little bit about reframing?
Yeah, I mean, reframing is such an important part of my life, and it's something I kind of adapted quite a few years ago, where how we, and I use there's certain terms I use to it, but we always have to understand is how we speak to ourselves or how we speak to others is going to set an outcome for that passage, right? So, and I always use this, an example I use in the video is you'd always hear dads like, oh, no, I gotta go pick up my kids now. No, I get to pick up my kids. It's reframing the words that are coming out of your mouth, locks in your mind, and it changes your outcome, right? I mean, there's times where you have a very stressful day. You go to the grocery store, somebody says something to you a lie. You go to the gas station, you're cut in traffic, you get home. I always tell entrepreneurs and dads, like, before you walk into that house and you got that pissed off face and you got your anger and you're all hyper, sit in your car, take a deep breath, reframe your mind, saying, you know what? My day's going to restart now. I'm going to walk in with a smile. Because you walk in that house and your wife sees you with a pissed off face, or your kids see you with your head down upset, that automatically changes the evening, changes the atmosphere, just like this. But you walk in with a smile, hey guys, how are you? Give everybody a hug, kiss. The whole evening changes. So it's just reframing how you use words and reframing how you have that mindset of how you react to things when you are around other people, right? Just take, like, once again, it goes back to just stopping, taking a deep breath, reassessing the moment.
Reassess the moment, reframe. One of the techniques that I really like to use, I like to compartmentalize. And so, whenever I come in, like you said, that I've had a stressful day and I'm going to walk into the house, I will literally tell myself, okay, I'm giving myself permission now for the next 3 hours just to turn it off, and I'm going to focus on them. After 3 hours, if I need to pick it back up again, I will, but I'm compartmentalizing, and I'm giving myself permission to relax and to focus on them, because it's like you said, you can really suck the energy out of the atmosphere depending on the mood that you walk in with, and that's not fair to them. So let me pivot and ask you about this, because certainly you're very successful. You've created several companies that are 7-digit and 8-digit companies, and along the way, all successful people experience failure at some point. Do you think that the fear of failure holds people back?
Oh, 100%. If you look at even the top, as yourself as an athlete, or a former athlete, the top athletes, top entrepreneurs, anybody in any area that succeeds understands that failure is not a failure. It's a lesson to learn from that moment, right? And when we focus on the failure, it's preventing us from getting to our goals. And I always say this is, the most successful people you're not focusing on what you want. They focus on what they want. The people that fail focus on what's preventing them from getting what they want. And you think about that. So if I focus on what I want, my goals are going to be there. I'm going to set all my dominoes in a line. I'm going to start knocking one by one down till I get to my goal. If I'm focusing on what's preventing me from getting there. Now, for example, when I got diagnosed with cancer, it wasn't a mindset of, I shifted my mindset within like 24 hours from being diagnosed. It wasn't a situation where I'm going to be focusing on the disease. I'm going to focus on, I want to be 9 years old. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. I have other goals I want to focus on to get there. Now I got to focus on my health. I got to focus on my nutrition. I got to focus on my diet. I got to focus on everything that's going to get me to walking my daughter down the aisle. I'm not focusing on that disease anymore. And I think a lot of people focus on what's preventing them from getting their goals instead of focusing on the actual, what they really want or what their goal is.
100%. 100%. Let's talk about self-worth. I've heard you use this great example of the price of water in different settings and how that relates to self-worth.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't come up with that one. I've heard that one years back, and it's so true. I mean, if you look at, you go to the grocery store and buy a case of water, you're buying them for 25 cents. a bottle of water. You go to the gym, you're paying $1.50. You go to the airport, you're paying $4 or $5. Surround yourself with individuals that are going to bring you up, individuals that are going to bring the best out of you. I mean, there's a lot of times if you're around a negative environment all day, you're going to fall into that path, right? I remember my dad as a young man, my dad always saying, tell me your 5 closest friends and I'm going to tell you who you are. And it is something where it's very true. So you want to surround yourself around people that are going to be inciting positivity into you, and the people that are going to bring you up. I always say in your lifetime, if you're lucky, you'll have a handful of true friends. And that's a lucky person. When I mean true friends are individuals that are going to celebrate your victories just as much as you're going to celebrate your victories. When somebody sees you do something amazing, they're going to have a smile and feel just as proud as you are. Those are the people you want to be around. And when you do find those people, you got to hold them close to you because they're very hard to find.
You're so right. And, being around people that will build you up makes an enormous difference. Jeff, you're a coach to entrepreneurs. And so this is a business for you. Would you tell us about your business, your coaching?
I mean, it's instilling understanding that a lot of people, there's 2 aspects of entrepreneurship. I mean, one is the actual business aspect of it, where it's just aligning and understanding the size of the business, setting the corporations, understanding the social media, understanding product development, understanding outsourcing products overseas and stuff like that. There's that aspect of it. And then there's the other aspect of it where it's understanding as an entrepreneur what it takes, understanding how to divide your time from your family. Starting a business is like a baby. You're essentially at the beginning, you're giving it all the nutrition, you're giving it all the love, you're giving it everything you possibly can. And as it starts growing and it starts learning to grow and develop as a young child, they start building your own friends. And as an entrepreneur, and you look at that business is your employees now. You're starting to now feel the trust to start delegating things and understanding that it's true to delegate. I think the biggest part with the entrepreneurs also, as they start developing and growing a business, is a lot of entrepreneurs have that mindset, Lee, where it's they could do it better than everybody else, which is, be honest, is probably true.
Oh my gosh!
In
yes.
most factors of the business, you could do it better than everybody else. Sorry, you say?
Yeah, I was saying that is the entrepreneur's dilemma. Is the hardest part
100%.
Is letting go.
100%. But you also have to have that mindset that every single job in that business, whether you have 30 employees, 100 employees, 2 employees, every single job in that business doesn't have to be perfected. Sometimes the job just has to be done. And once you actually start learning that and understanding that and learning to let go, you're going to understand that freedom is so much more important. The whole idea of being an entrepreneur is being able to have that financial freedom. That is, every entrepreneur starts with that dream. When they started being entrepreneurs, I want to be able to build a company where I could go on vacation. I could spend the days with my times with my family. And then they get stuck into building this business and they're actually working way more hours than they would a 9-to-5 job. So understanding that once your job, you get to a certain degree and level where you can start delegating certain jobs and spreading it and using that time now to actually focus on the things that you said you're going to do before. That's when you start getting the financial freedom. And also understanding that work is great. Everything's amazing. You could have, I always tell people, Lee, you could have the nicest car and you could have the Ferrari in the driveway. If you're in the hospital bed, lying in the hospital bed, that Ferrari means absolutely nothing. So having that mindset too, I try to instill that into all the entrepreneurs as well, is understanding that there's different levels of success. We talked about at the beginning. Financial is not all success. Financial freedom should be your successful goal. That should be your main goal, is having the freedom to do what you want when you want at any time. That should be the focus, main goal of any entrepreneur.
And that's what you focus on in your coaching business, teaching entrepreneurs who are often fathers, how to establish that work-life balance. I had a great mentor at one time. I'll never forget him. His name was Jay Mower, and he was a marketing professor at the University of Houston. He was a retired Coca-Cola executive, and he was a Harvard undergraduate, Stanford MBA, just a brilliant guy. And one day I was complaining to him. This had to have been over 25 years ago when we first started the business. And I was complaining to him saying, Jay, I'm really struggling with balancing work with family, and how do you do it? And he told me something that I never forgot, which is this. He said, work is like a rubber ball. If you drop it, when you come back, it bounces back. You can catch it on the way back. But your family is like porcelain. And if you drop that, it cracks and you can glue it back together, but it's never the same. And I never forgot that. And that's when I started compartmentalizing, which is something we talked about earlier, and scheduling the time and in that manner. Jeff, I'm going to segue into something that you have mentioned before several times, because I know that there's lots of our viewers out there that are going to want to know about your victory. You're a cancer survivor. You survived stage 3 cancer. Your struggle has served as an inspiration to many people. Will you share that part of your story with us now?
It was, 100%. I mean, my purpose has changed so much in my life in the last 2 years, Lee. I mean, when I got originally diagnosed, and I don't know if you recall, you were my last podcast with Jeff Lopes before I shut everything down.
Oh my goodness.
I got diagnosed November 23rd. I got diagnosed November 23rd, 2022. And I'll give you it. I'll dive into what I'm doing now quickly, and then I'll dive into the story quickly. My purpose now is really understanding and teaching people how that cancer is not a death sentence. Cancer is a metabolic disease that could be treated and could be taken care of, even away from, there are the odd time that you do need treatment, but I took the metabolic approach to it. I refused to do the chemo. And now I take inspiration in helping others with that. I mean, I get 4, 5, 6 calls a week by individuals that just got diagnosed with cancer. And I sit down with them. I don't charge anything. I don't do it as a business. And I just want to give and teach them and guide them and introduce them to people that could help them. And right now, I don't know if you're aware that the Jeff Lopes podcast, I completely stopped it right now. And I've been running a podcast called Prevail Over Cancer podcast with a scientist out of Oklahoma, Keith Bishop. And this podcast is essentially teaching people the benefits of a metabolic approach to cancer and other things you could do, from saunas and grounding and really, really diving into the metabolic approach to how she defeating this disease. When I got diagnosed in 2022, November 23rd, it was just like another thing. I thought I was a healthy individual. I worked out 4 or 5 times a week. I thought relatively healthy. I had zero family history of cancer. I did genetic testing even after, and there's 2 BRCA genes, and I didn't even have those genetic genes for cancer. So I started seeing a little blood in my stool the odd time for a few months, and I went to the doctor. I explained this to my family physician, and we decided to do a full panel of blood. We checked every tumor markers, we checked inflammation markers, we checked everything came back 100% clean. Doctor says, Jeff, don't stress out. You got hemorrhoids. Don't stress out about it. At that time, I was 45 years old. He goes, don't stress out about it. You're healthy. You're young. You're good. I went home, and I always tell everybody, trust your intuition, Lee. Trust your intuition. I went home and I looked at my wife and I said, something's just not right. I don't feel bad. I don't feel sick, but just something's not right. I went back to the doctor and said, listen, I like to do a colonoscopy. And he was like, no, you don't have to do it. I had to push him to do it. So be an advocate of yourself. And this is something I'm trying to push to everybody. Be an advocate for yourself. If you feel something is not right, you have to do what's right for you. Don't listen to everybody else. It takes one day to do a test or check something just to make sure you are safe, right? And I pushed for it. The doctor booked the colonoscopy. It was literally like 3 months later. And I said, you know what? That's just not the way my mind works. I literally got on the phone and I started calling every clinic I could find. And I ended up getting a cancellation 3 or 4 days later. Went in, did a colonoscopy, woke up to having a doctor stand in front of me tell me he found a tumor inside me in my rectum. And it was one of those moments where you never think it's going to happen to you. You'll never, ever, ever think that's going to happen to you. And I recall coming out, and my wife was waiting in the car outside, because after you do colonoscopy, then you can't drive home on your own. My wife was waiting outside. I got in the car and I looked at her and I told her, and she turned white as a ghost. She didn't even know how to react. And we got home and I said, listen, I want to sit down with the family. I want to sit down with my kids tonight and tell them everything. And I sat down with my son and my daughter, and I still recall this. And my son is a very emotional, quiet kid, and he just started bawling. And my daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, like, you got to walk me down the aisle." And I just, those words locked in my head. And it was like instantly my mind shifted from feeling sorry for myself to almost like this fight or flight mode was like, this is now my time to battle this. And I went into full mode where I literally the next 2 or 3 days started reading every book I possibly could, starting to find every podcast I possibly could, started researching, booking everything. Within the first 21 days, I had my MRIs booked, my scopes booked, my scans booked. I had an oncologist, I had a surgeon, I had everything booked within the first 21 days. And the surgeon wanted to go in and do the surgery right away. And I told him, listen, I want to heal my body. And I want to get my body prepped for the surgery because I knew it was going to be a big surgery. So the surgeon went in, did a scope, saw the tumor in my rectum. And he says, listen, Jeff, he goes, either I could go and take the tumor out, can't guarantee I can get it all, or I could clean you right out. And I said, you know what, clean you right out. So they removed 65% of my rectum. They moved 23 lymph nodes, massive surgery, 5 incisions. And everything I did, Lee, and this shows, and your health is your life, everything I did to my body from that moment on till February 16th, from November 23rd to February 16th, I went in to surgery. They marked on me with a Sharpie marker where I was going to get a colonoscopy bag. So I was going to get a shit bag the rest of my life. At 45 years old, I was going to have a bag the rest of my life, which was dry. So I went in thinking I was going to get a bag. It was a 4.5 hour surgery. But everything I did to my body, I woke up where I didn't need a bag. The surgery dropped to 3 hours, and the tumor had shrunk and was over 50%. And incredible. And it shows how taking care of yourself, and everything I did, I was supposed to be in the hospital for 5 to 6 days. I was out of the hospital in 40 hours. And it's just that mindset of just, I had a goal, and my mindset hasn't changed. And then maybe it's my entrepreneurial mindset. Maybe it's just the way I focus, and I've always been like this, but it's been 2 years. I haven't had a processed food in my body. I haven't had a drop of sugar in my body. I've never missed my 22 supplements every day. I sauna every day. I fast 16 to 18 hours every single day. I mean, I work out 5 days a week. Everything is so routine in my life right now, where I'm at 47 in the best shape of my life. And I feel incredible in this past 2 years.
Let me just stop you for a quick second there, and let me just ask you this. So, that's an incredible story, and obviously swinging into action, organizing, and taking care of your own health care, and it saved your life. But what also saved your life was the discipline that you brought to the process. So that's the discipline piece of it, which, I know that you're a very disciplined individual and very accomplished, but how did you stay positive?
I focus on, this is something we talked about, Lee, in the beginning of this podcast, is I shifted my mind very quickly, and I started just understanding that focus on the controllables. It is so easy to get, and don't get me wrong, Lee, there was days where I would sit in the car driving to the office, and I would just be at a red light and start bawling by myself, thinking, how is this happening to me? But I would easily just take that moment, bundle it in, and reshift my mind again, and just focus on the controllables. So I'm talking about controllables. I'd be like, okay, this week I need the book in an MRI. Okay, that's my focus right now. Tomorrow I need to focus on it. I would just focus on what's in front of me, not the outcome, just what's in front of me. And every day, just in my mind, mentally check off, okay, got this done today. We're good today. Let's move on to the next day. Focus on this, check it off, get on the next day. And that kept me going. And that still keeps me going, is control the controllables. We get lost in the outcome. And it's just that stress, the anxiety. It's so easy to get buried in that. And once that happens, it's so hard to dig yourself out of that, right? So focusing on what is in front of you, focusing on minute to minute, moment to moment, and say, okay, today, these are my goals. I got 3 things to do today. These are my goals. Anything else that happens is a bonus. And that's what I kept doing. And that's what actually got me through. And that's what's still getting me through. Because I just did my test a week and a half ago, and you still build the anxiety. You still get you're sitting in oncology, and you're sitting in a room with 150, 160 people, all everybody has different levels of cancer, and you're sitting there like, how am I here? Why is this happening to me? But then I turn around and be like, you know what? I just helped 3 or 4 people this week that they're shitting their pants. This guy diagnosed with cancer, and I gave them some kind of relief, some kind of understanding, some type of almost in my mind, almost like I'd given them some hope that they're going to, if I could do it, they could do it. So I think everybody in life, Lee, I always say this, you're only given what you're able to handle. And I truly believe I was put in a situation to handle it.
I do believe that, Jeff, and I do believe that, and that you're given what you can handle. And oftentimes in my life, when I've have faced those crises, I think everybody has them. Maybe not as a mortality, a threat to your mortality the way that you did. But we all face a crisis of some type sooner or later in our life. And, one of the things that that has helped me, like you, is to just focus on those things that I can control, and not to look at the scary things, and let my mind run wild. I know that in my own part, faith has played an important part. And I was going to ask you, did faith in a higher power figure into your recovery?
I think that it figures out in everybody's mind where, you don't have to be the most religious person, but understanding that everything happens for a reason, understanding that everything we give forth towards ourselves and towards others, we're going to get back in full amount. So just having that mindset where being positive, and whether it's a religion, whether it's self-belief in yourself or belief in everything happens for a reason, we have to have that faith. You have to have that understanding, right? And if you sit back, if I actually sit back, Lee, and I think of every single thing that happened during this whole process, I'll give you one example. When I went in for my colonoscopy, they put the IV, they were about to knock me out. I'm lying on my side in the bed, and all I hear is Jeff Lopes. And I'm like, I lift my head up, and the doctor that was about to do my colonoscopy, I had coached his son baseball for like a few years. Our sons had played in the same league. He knew me, which was the most insane thing. And we were laughing and joking. I get knocked out. I wake up to him literally in tears about to hug me. So it's just crazy how the world works. I'm going to give you another example where I needed to book an appointment, and this clinic was jam-packed. They were like, it's going to take at least 2-3 weeks to get you in here. And all of a sudden, the receptionist I was talking to her. I'm like, please get me in. I need to get this done. This was one of my appointments that I booked in the first 21 days. And I said to her, listen, I go, this is how I am. Either I'm gonna call you every single day, 5-6 times a day if I have to, until you book me in. So either you're going to book me in or you're going to get harassed by me. Pick which one you want. And she starts laughing. And then she went back and she was looking at my address. She's like, this is how crazy this world. She goes, you live on this address. And she said my address. And I go, yeah. She goes, oh my gosh. She goes, you walk with a lab up here, and you go to the park with your dog. I'm like, yeah. This lady lived up the street from me. And she said, every time you come by me, you always smile and say hi. How crazy of a world that this lady that was booking my, and she ended up calling me back an hour later and booked me for the next day. So just crazy how the world is. And it shows you how, just in general, being kind to people, you never know how it always comes back to you, right?
That's right.
So, and that's one thing I as a dad, I tell my children this, 100%. And I always tell my children this is one thing I do, Lee, and as a dad, from a very young age, when my kids were 2-3 years old, we'd walk into a mall and I'd be like, hold that door for that person. Look that man in the eye and smile at him and say hi to him.
Nice.
Teaching these basic life skills and making them understand kindness from a very young age. My kids, people come to our house and people are like, oh my God, your kids are so well behaved. Like my kids, my son's 16, my daughter's 18. We had friends over. Most kids are in the basement. They're out with their friends. My kids are sitting at the table with us, having coffee with us, talking with us. It's having an interaction. My kids call their grandparents all the time. They talk to them. They understand the importance of those little things. right? And these are things we instill from a very young age, and I'm very proud of. And when I see my kids do that, I think it's so amazing, because I look at other friends of ours and their kids are they're wild. So instilling these things from a very young age is so important, where spraying that kindness, it always comes back. It
sure does. And I agree with you. You got to start them at a young age and leading by example, Jeff, as you have now. Jeff, you have some children's books called Grandpa Joe's Adventures. Let's talk about those.
Yeah, those books actually started, they started when my dad passed away. And it's been this May 7th this year will be 4 years, which I can't even believe it's been 4 years already. So I had that relationship with my dad, Lee, where I would say most people would die for a relationship with their dads like this. I was 43, and when he passed away, I would talk to my dad 3 times a day. I would call him on the way to work. I would call him on the way home from the office, and I would call him every night before he would go to bed. We would have a conversation every single night. And luckily, he lived like 30 minutes away. I would see him all the time. So we had this incredible relationship. We go to car shows together. We build stuff together. We always together. And I think this is so important to teach people, is living with no regrets. What I mean by that is pick up that phone, call that person, call that parent if you haven't talked to them in a while, because you don't want to get that phone call of something happening and having those regrets inside you, because they will never go away. Trust me. Because I spend so much time with my dad. I talk to my dad all the time. I had an incredible relationship with him, and I still had regrets. I was like, I wish I did this with him. I wish I had that with him, because it was so sudden. I spoke to him on May 6th, Thursday night. It was about 10:30 at night. We had a great conversation. And then I got that dreaded call Friday morning at 6 in the morning. I always say if you get a call early in the morning, it's usually never good. And at 6 in the morning, I get a call, and my dad got up, went to the bathroom, walked in, looked at my mom, and passed out in front of her. And that was it. A massive heart attack, died on the spot. And I never was able to say my goodbyes. And that destroyed me to the point where I do believe that stress and that anxiety, and I've been doing a lot of research on stress and anxiety and the link to cancer now. And I do believe that if you look at most people that are diagnosed with cancer, 18 months to 2.5, 3 year period prior to their link of cancer, they've had a very stressful moment in their life. And this is something that you see repetitively, whether it's divorce, loss of a job, loss of a loved one. And you see that link where how stress really takes hold of your body. Like I spent the first 90 something days, Lee, every single day at the cemetery. My dad loved crossword puzzles, and I had bought him this massive crossword book for Christmas, whatever, 4 months before he passed away. And he was still at his house. And I grabbed that book, and I would go to the cemetery and just sit there and do crossword puzzles 2-3 hours a day. I did that for 90 something days straight. So that stress and anxiety was a huge part of, I do believe, the overall outcome with the cancer. But through my mind is I wanted to keep his memory alive, and with my children as well. So I literally just I was actually said at the cemetery when I started this, I just started jotting down like little things. And that ended up leading to a few children books where we, all the funds that we raised this is another story for another day. My son had, spent the first 4 months of his life and a big chunk of his life at Sick Kids Hospital growing up. So we donate the proceeds to that to the actual hospital, the charity. And I'd done that over the period, but it was just more of keeping his memory alive and keeping things that he did with his grandkids, alive as well. Now, I actually took inspiration where I actually took photos of my dad with my children, and then we turned them into cartoons. And those are actually photos in the books as well, illustrations in the book as well, to keep his memory alive.
What an awesome thing to do. And I'm sure that they are full of wonderful stories. So let me ask you this: where would people purchase these books?
There's on Amazon. I mean, you go to Amazon or you go to our website at jeffreylopes.com. So JeffReylopes.com. You can see them there as well.
Okay, great. Now, Jeff, you have a really wonderful YouTube podcast called Jeff Knows Inc. We talked a little bit about that. What do you love best about doing your podcast?
Like I said earlier, originally the podcast was interviewing and inspirational people like yourself, people that have accomplished so much in their lives, like you with your business and your athletic achievements in the past, and your fatherhood with your son now following your steps and all that. I mean, it's just, I just love just hearing people's stories and sharing people's stories. And I think through people's stories, others could find inspiration, could find their own motivation. And I think it's so important to be able to spread those stories, because there is so many remarkable people in this world that by spreading their stories, you're just going to keep inspiring the next generation, because now the next generation of individuals that are taking health and fitness in school could look at you and be like, you know what, I could also get into the fitness industry. I could also start a business. I could also start a supplement company. So understanding that your story, your situations that you've gone through, the good and the bad, and Lee, like anything as entrepreneurs, I mean, there's lots of bad with lots of good. At the end of the day, I always tell people, you're going to have tons of losses. You're going to have tons of stressful moments as an entrepreneur, because it's not an easy journey. And there's a reason why most businesses fail. But at the end of the day, if you can stack more wins than the losses, and you're in the good column, then you're doing something good compared to most people, right? So it's just a matter of taking these stories from these entrepreneurs or these individuals that have accomplished something incredible and sharing that with others to have inspiration to be able to understand that they could do it as well.
Now, Jeff, where can our viewers find you on social media?
I'm more present on Instagram. It's under info. I mean, it's at just Jeff Lopes, JFFLOPES. You can find me on Instagram. And that's where, I mean, we're on all the social media platforms, but Instagram is where I'm more present at this time.
That's great. Jeff, thank you so much. This has really been inspirational. Your story is amazing, and kudos and congratulations on your health victory, and keep going strong. You're doing a great job, and I love how you're helping other people in similar situations, to stay positive and to develop successful disciplinary type of habits and things that they can do to free themselves, to get cancer free, I should say. So thanks so much. It's been super inspirational, and I hope that you'll be back again sometime.
I appreciate everything you're doing, Lee. I mean, I love that. I remember when I had you on my podcast, you were about to start your podcast, and I love to see what you've done, and you're an inspiration for millions of people as well. So thank you very much for having me on, and thank you for being who you are. Appreciate it, buddy.
Jeff Lopes, guys, check him out on Instagram and at his website. Hey, guys, help us to grow the Lee Labrada Show by sharing this podcast with just one other person. Would you do that now? And be sure to hit the subscribe button. Leave your comments and feedback below. Follow us on Spotify. If you're driving, turn it on Spotify. You can listen there. Okay, you guys, stay motivated. Get up, look up, and God bless you.
The Lee Labrada Show.
You're moving me, oh Lord. I just wanna change.